Om Tat Sat. My humble prostrations to the all-pervading energy known as Brahman or God, to my worshipful Guruji, Swami Jyotirmayananda Maharaj, to all the sages and saints of this world, and to each of you divine soul watching today's satsang. Today we will be studying Sutra number 30 from the Sadhana Pad of the Raja Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. Sutra 30 is Ahimsa, Satya, Astaya, Brahmacharya, Aparigraha, Yamaha. Let's repeat. Ahimsa, Satya, Astaya, Brahmacharya, Aparigraha, Yamaha. Ahimsa means non-violence. Satya is abstinence from falsehood, or Satya means truth. Astaya, non-stealing. And Brahmacharya is abstinence from sex pleasure or sexual restraint. Aparigraha, non-covetousness, non-hoarding. Yama, these are the restraints. So basically these are the important restraints we have to have for us to progress on the path of yoga. These are non-violence, abstinence from falsehood, non-stealing, abstinence from sex pleasure, and non-covetousness. Explanation, let's go a little deeper. It says ahimsa or non-violence is the mother of all virtues. So therefore we say ahimsa paramo dharma, highest. Why? Because we don't like pain. If somebody pokes us with a knife, we get hurt. We don't want that. Therefore we should not do ahimsa to others also. And hinsa or violence is non-violence becomes ahimsa. Hinsa by itself means violence. So when we don't do violence, we can do violence in three ways. Number one, we physically hurt somebody, so that is physical violence. The other one is we do it vocally, which means we lash out our tongue and say something very mean, very hurtful, and that is violence also. And the third one is mentally we are directing ill will towards other. We have hatred, for example, to our boss who we don't like, and therefore but we cannot yell back at him, or we cannot get upset, or we lose our job. So therefore we hate mentally, and that is the third kind of violence. So an aspirant must abstain from all these three forms of violence: physical, verbal, and mental. This virtue is founded on the spiritual fact that all living beings are expressions of the same universal energy. The same God resides in an ant that resides in you and me also. So while we practically lead our life and follow the rules, externally from God's viewpoint, this whole Brahman is saturated with God's love. So therefore practice non-violence. Then refraining from falsehood, which means speak the truth. Don't lie, in other words. Always say what is true, but always speak what is pleasant also. Satyam vada priyam vada na vada satyam apriyam. So don't speak things that are hurtful but true. For example, calling a blind person is the truth, but it is hurtful. So therefore use good judgment in speaking the truth. Don't speak truth that hurts people, or unpleasant. Astaya means non-stealing. Implies freedom from desiring. So the less desires we have, the less hoarding mentality we have, and we don't misappropriate. We don't need to steal the possessions of others. And stealing is not just physical, it can be ideas as well. You heard something and then you want to put your name on it and claim it to be your thought. that is also a form of stealing from the highest sense. As we evolve, we learn these things. So therefore, we have to be leading a good ethical life if we are going to become a yogi. And brahmacharya, this is an important one, just because the sex pleasure and the pleasure of the tongue, food taste, are two hardest pleasures to give up. And it always causes a lot of confusion among many aspirants, because they rise to a state, but then the impulse is so strong that they lose control. But Patanjali Maharaj is guiding us. If you want to be a true yogi, then you have to transcend this barrier. You somehow have to maintain your restraint towards these fleeting pleasures. This practice, why should we do that? That is, let's get into that a little bit. Why is Sage Patanjali asking us to stay away from what we perceive to be such a pleasant experience in the world? He says the practice is intended to sublimate your sexual energy. See, once we discharge that energy, we get momentary pleasure, but then followed by weakness, lack of energy, and so on. But if you are able to maintain that through your sadhana, tapasya, and following the yogic path, that energy then sublimates into mental energy. So instead of coming out, you are holding it within yourself, and through your kundalini, through your sushumna, it is called Ojas shakti. It gives you a radiance, a glow, and therefore that is why you see yogis and sannyasis with so much aura, with so much radiance and glow, because they have successfully controlled this energy. And what happens with it is that your intellect becomes clearer and sharper. So that is what brahmacharya is. And aparigraha is non-covetousness and keeping as little as possible. Lead a simple life. We don't need too many things, but yet we complicate our life with so many material objects. And so Patanjali Maharaj says, instead of hoarding objects, one should live a life of utter simplicity. We should lead a good, simple life. We don't need too many of these things. And the fewer the possessions, the easier it is for the mind to enjoy an atmosphere of peace. You feel liberated. So this is the reason why Sage Patanjali guides us to follow these yamas. So yamas are don'ts, and niyamas, which we will be studying in the next sutra, are do's. So yamas means that don't lie, don't hurt people. So kind of think of it as ethical principles that you are doing. And this is the essence of this sutra, very deep sutra. So please contemplate on this, think about it, that if you are sacrificing, it's not being wasted. You're using this energy for a higher purpose. May we all have this energy to follow Sage Patanjali's yamas. And we will be studying the niyamas in the next sutra. Om Tat Sat.